Hello, everyone. Good morning. Here we're in the morning, still in Colombia. Um, we are gonna talk about this topic that is conference number 43, different types of lustful defects or lustful selves. This is a really important topic because it will make us understand how have we contaminated our sexual creative energy and how can we purify it through the techniques of meditation, of intimate self-reflection, and understand uh, the darkness that we have inside of us that is trapped in the defect of lust. The understanding of this defect of lust is really fundamental for us to work in the sexual alchemy. The sexual alchemy is this technique of sexual transmutation that is going to give us a result, the creation of the superior existential bodies for our being. So this is really important to work in the kundalini with our partner and to ascend this fire of wisdom and of love through our spinal cord. So let's see and explain in detail what is the purpose of this conference. The objective is to understand what is chastity. We have within ourselves the defect of lust. The defect of lust is when we use our sexual creative energy, this energy that is really important for our physical body, for our spiritual development, for the construction of the internal existential bodies of our being. We have that spark, we have that principle of light and fire that is our sexual energy, and it's really valuable, but we don't know how to use it. We have heard that it's only used for entertainment, for pleasure, for achieving the orgasm and the ejaculation, that is the infrasex practices, and that it's all that we have heard about the sexuality. But sexuality is also used to build up our conscience, to construct the force of love that is in ourself latent. So we I don't know how to get rid of these psychological defects that we have inside of us, to use this energy to purify our human machine, to build up the existential bodies that we have. We have the power to regenerate our physical body, our vital body, to create the astral body, the mental body, the causal body, and to unite with the Buddhic and Atmic body, but we just don't know about this power that we have inside of us. So that is chastity. Chastity is also confused with celibacy. Celibacy is the opposite of chastity. Celibacy is believing that sex is something that is impure, that is disgusting, that is repulsive, and that is totally the opposite of chastity. Chastity is valuing that sexual creative energy, that fire, but using it not only for our pleasure, because pleasure is going to end up in pain, but is using consciously the energy that we have in our human machine, that sexual energy, to ascend that fire to our spinal cord and create these vehicles that are the superior existential bodies, that we have to get to know the different superior dimensions of nature. We think that the only thing that is real is our physical body, and this third dimension, the things that we can perceive through our five senses: touch, smell, the visual part, and those are the five senses for perceiving only the superficial. But we can also get in touch with our being, this spiritual force that we have inside of us, and get to know the astral world, the mental world, these superior dimensions in which we have our conscience. So we can do it through the conscious use of the sexual creative energy. There are two types of fire. We have to recognize that one type of fire is to create our conscience, to awaken our conscience, that is the kundalini, that is the fire ascending through the spinal cord victorious, and that will get us to know the different superior dimensions that I was talking about. If you have experienced a mystical experience of the superior dimensions in the astral projection, you can know that in that dimension, the astral world, you can get in touch with your being, you can find about any mystery in the universe, and when you have the astral body, you could do it with your will in any time that you wanted, and you could investigate about any temple of wisdom, the mysteries of science, the mysteries of love, of art, any kind of mystery. You could find that willingly if you have your astral body created. But right now we don't have it created, so we need to work with the fire of the kundalini and ascend the sexual creative energy through our spinal cord in these suprasex practices. And the other aspect of the fire descending through the kunda buffer organ. The kunda buffer is that satanic tail that is in touch with the infradimensions of planet Earth. That is the infra dimension cord that ties us to this ego that is vibrating there really low in the planet Earth. And these two types of fire are totally opposite. So the kunda buffer is our ego, and the kundalini is our spirit force. Once we liberate ourselves from our ego, of our anger, of our gluttony, of our vanity, of our need for pleasure in the fornication, we are going to discover that force of the kundalini, and we are going to get to know different superior aspects of nature and get in touch with the love and wisdom of our being. That is the force of the kundalini. So we are going to develop it as soon as we start practicing the meditation techniques, the suprasex, to unite with our couple in a conscious sexual practice in which we are going to create love and not creating more pleasure and pain, which is the void that we are creating when we create more ego through fornication. So this is the kunda buffer, that is our ego. We need to eliminate it in order to create and ascend our energy through our spinal cord. So the suprasex is the superior sex, is the regeneration and the creation of the children of light. It's the creation of our existential bodies. When we liberate our essence that is trapped in a psychological defects, for example, anger, when we rescue the virtue of patience, of calm, solving our problems in a calm way, we are liberating that essence that is trapped in the fire of ego, and that essence is going to serve our conscience. It's going to rescue the faculties, powers, and virtues of our being. And when we do the practice of sexual transmutation, this energy is going to ascend in the spinal cord, and is going to give us a result, the creation of love. Normal sex is a type of sex that people used when they were in contact with their being many centuries ago, when people haven't creating this second nature that is the wisdom of evil. We practiced the sexual practices were done in those temples with the gurus, devas of nature, And those practices were done to give the possibility to reproduce the species, to give a physical body to another person that was going to give to come to the existence. But those practices weren't done with the fornication or the spelling of the sexual creative energy in the orgasm or the ejaculation. No, they were done with chastity, and just one sexual cell, sperm or ovule, were used in the copulation in order to give this physical body to the person that was going to come and take another physical body. So these normal sex practices are not longer done, are totally unknown. They were known as the Immaculate Conception because it was giving the possibility to another person to come to the existence, but without the fornication. And the infrasex practices that are what we commonly know, using sex just for pleasure, for using our partner as a means to achieve pleasure, and just achieving that pleasure no matter what, with degeneration, with fornication, with reproduction of our ego, because these solar cells that are our sexual creative atoms are being expelled from our physical body and transformed in lunar atoms, and are integrating what we call our seminal envelope. Our seminal envelope is totally contaminated, is totally dark because of the fornication. So chastity is what we call the using of this sexual creative energy, not just for our entertainment, for the orgasm or the ejaculation. No, it's totally the opposite. We are not going to do a practice in which we are going to spill our sexual creative energy, because this is our treasure. This treasure that we have, that is the sexual creative energy, is going to be ascended through our spinal cord, and this is going to give us a result, the creation of love and the superior existential bodies for our being. So why should we study lustful selves? We need to achieve chastity, so there is power and creation. A person that has no sexual creative energy has no power, because this sexual creative energy has powers, faculties, and forces that are our psychic treasure. So we need to value it. The people that are in the Black Lodge, they want to profit that sexual creative energy and use it for their own benefit, because they know that it has a lot of power. But we don't know that, so we all the time are expelling that energy through orgasm and ejaculation because of our ignorance. So we need to start valuing it, study our defects of lust, so we can rescue that chastity that is the real value of our sexual creative energy. We need to rescue the trap fire that is in each lustful defect, and that way we are going to achieve a pure practice of sexual transmutation or spiritual birth. Our spiritual birth is going to be when we are born from fire. We die psychologically. We eliminate all that darkness, all that obscurity that we have in ourselves. But what is it going to be born? Our conscience is going to be born in a pure sexual practice. So we need to purify that practice as long as we get to know our inner darkness, that self-knowledge, that is knowing how many times did we consume pornography, how many times did we commit adultery, how many times did we desire someone that was not our couple, and when we fed the prototype of beauty. all the defects regarding lust are going to be the psychological material that will allow us to purify that sexual creative energy that is totally contaminated, because we need a specific purity level of the sexual energy in order to awaken the serpent of the kundalini, because this serpent is totally asleep in our coccyx bone. But with the right purity of the energy, with the right level of purity, this serpent of the kundalini is going to wake up and start creating our existential bodies. So how should we study the lustful selves? The work in these selves is directed by the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is a portion of our conscience that represents the love, the force of love. And love is able to disintegrate all the aspects of our ego. Love is a purifying force that can diminish all the action of our psychological defects. So if we beg to our Divine Mother, Divine Mother, disintegrate me this defect of the prototype of beauty, of feeling attraction for someone that's not my couple, of feeling totally hypnotized by the physical appearance of this person. Well, the Divine Mother is this portion of our conscience that can disintegrate everything that we beg for her to do it. The work must be done through the intimate self-reflection. So the intimate self-reflection is this process of meditation in which you are going to reflect how many times have I done this sexual degeneration, or have I consumed pornography, have I committed adultery. You are going to remember all what you have done with your psychological defects of lust, and to each detail you're going to beg to your Divine Mother, Divine Mother, disintegrate me this defect that used to consume pornography in order to achieve, for example, a sexual degeneration practice of masturbation or something like that. Well, you remember your own psychological material. Everybody has different types of lustful selves, so there are many things that you haven't committed in this existence. We are going to start to reflect on what we have done, not what we imagine, but what we have really done in this existence. And then we are going to get to self-observe different more detailed aspects, more subtle manifestations of the defects of lust. But at first, we are going to just reflect on the defects that are more evident, the biggest defects of lust that we have. So how many times did I fornicate, and how did that happen? Fornication, let's remember that is we have to make it clear, the spilling of the sexual creative energy through orgasm and ejaculation. So this defect of fornication just wants to satisfy his own pleasure and entertainment just through that force of pleasure that is going to sooner or later be transformed into pain. And that is not the force of love. The force of love is something superior that can be achieved through the magnetism of a sexual practice, which is done not using your partner as a means to achieve pleasure, but using that energy to create the superior existential bodies. It's a process. A sexual transmutation practice is a process in which we connect, we do a practice, a sexual practice, totally normal, that we connect with our couple, but we are not going to let go that sexual creative energy, but we are going to do a process of inhalation, retention, and exhalation of the energy, and we are going to ascend that energy through the spinal cord, the sexual creative energy. And we can last hours and hours practicing the suprasex with our couple in total harmony and magnetism, and uh, this need to expel the sexual energy is not going to appear. Just we are going to feel totally connected, and we are going to feel that we love even more our couple day by day. So let's look at some lustful selves in order for us to reflect on this sexual degeneration that we have committed. There are many defects that we haven't done in this existence, that we haven't uh, well practiced those sexual degenerations, but still we are going to explain about them, because it's necessary to have into account that when we do fornication practices of infrasex, we are going to create more ego, and the psychology is going to be heavier and heavier. You are going to be each day even more obscure, even more contaminated, and once you had pleasure with a little bit of degeneration, you are going to want more and more, and going down and down and experiencing more degenerated practices in order to satisfy your own pleasure and your ego. So still we are going to explain about many psychological defects that can appear through the fornication practices and the sexual degeneration practices. This is done just for you to have into account that if you have done those practices, you need to do a meditation practice in order to eliminate those defects. You need to remember how did you do it, how many times did you do it, why did you do it, and back to your divine mother. Divine mother, eliminate me this defect of just doing a masturbation practice. Let's remember, for example, that masturbation practices increase the magnetism to our own sex. So it's going to derivate in homosexualism and lesbianism. So the fornicarious flaws has different aspects. That is the desire, the justification, and the bad will. So just the defect of the fornication has existed through many existences. Through many human existences, we have done the same thing, creating more ego through the practices of fornication. So it's a really instinctive process that we have done through many existences. It's a really fed up psychological defect that is going to have a lot of wisdom of evil that we need to rescue. Justification is when we use our mind to defend our instinct of our low instincts of just feeling pleasure through the expelling of the sexual energy. And the bad will is when we know that how the defect works on us, but still we do it just because we are used to it, and we don't want to change that because we remain totally attached to pleasure, to the low pleasure of fornication. So we need to understand all these elements. That is the desire, that is this fire that is trapped in the need of the dependence, the addiction, the pleasure that we have towards this defect. The justification is our mind, all the excuses, all the hand washes. No, it was not my fault. It's because someone seduced me, someone conquered me, someone got me to do this, and it's our mind defending itself. And the bad will is when we just don't care and just we do it because we want to be more obscure. The masturbation practices is when we use our sexual creative energy to stimulate our own defects of fornication, of spilling of the energy, but with our own energy, maybe imagining, maybe fantasizing. The nocturnal emission, the nocturnal emissions are just a result of processes of lasciviousness, that is sexual energy that is repressed Maybe we were fantasizing, we were remembering someone that we felt attraction for, but we couldn't manifest that in this third dimension. We didn't conquer that person, we didn't approach that person, and but we feel a lot of tension, a lot of sexual tension, a lot of sexual frustration, and at night in a dream we are going to fantasize with that person and lose our sexual creative energy in this type of fornication that is a nocturnal emission. And the sex in vagina with orgasm is just a sexual practice in which we unite with a person of our opposite sex, and just we expel this energy in fornication, in orgasm and ejaculation. So uh, this explanation is just for you to understand that if you have done these practices, you need to remember, why did I do it, how did I do it, how many times did I do it, in order to beg to your divine mother, eliminate me this ego that feels the desire of masturbation, of feeling repressed sexual anxiety towards this prototype of beauty, of a woman that I saw, of a man that I saw on television, in a magazine, at walking in the street, because this is something that is fantasy. It's not it's not the sexual union that we want to accomplish, that is a pure sexual practice with our partner from the opposite sex, through ascend the kundalini, that is creating our spiritual force. But if we are using sex just for degeneration, well, we need to let go of that and beg to our divine mother to eliminate all those defects in order to rescue our conscience and awaken that conscience. So let's reflect on the self of masturbation. There are different types of masturbation. That is the lonely, that is done with many times people use apparatus, auto homosexual practices. They consume pornography in order to get to the orgasm or the ejaculation, using fantasy, using imagination. They use different objects like dolls, like sexual machines, in order to get to the fornication and the masturbation practices that is spilling that energy through the sexual stimulation or of their own genitals, and that gives us a result, the degeneration, because we are transforming ourselves into homosexuals and lesbians. We have a sexual energy that is charged. Men are electric and women are magnetic, and woman and man complement themselves in that electromagnetic force. But if we are uniting positive with positive, we are stimulating our own energy. For example, me, that I am a woman, if I am practicing those sexual types of degeneration, I am just feeding my own polarity. My sexual energy is magnetic, and I am giving myself more magnetism. And well, this doesn't have a complement, because I have to search for the electromagnetic power that is uniting with my couple of the opposite sex, my partner of the opposite sex, so this ends up in as a result gives revulsion to our sexual energy, impotence practices. We are no longer going to have more desire to unite with our partner. We are going to feel disliking of sex, not wanting more sex because we have abused of our sexual apparatus, and we have given a lot of energy to this entity that is the incubi and succubi. The incubus is going to be the manifestation of this sexual prototype of beauty that we have used to fantasize. We have given all the energy to that incubi if we are a woman, and to the succubus if we are a man. The succubus is that this mental creation that we have fed with all the imagination, the fantasizing, the prototype of beauty. If you have done a masturbation practice thinking of a woman that looks this way, with these facial features, with this physical body, with these characteristics, well, this is going to be the entity that you have given your sexual creative energy to. So, this entity is going to prevent you for achieving your partner, because you're always going to want to compare the real person that you encounter, your real partner. You are going to always compare it with the prototype of beauty, and you are going to feel that you dislike your partner. Oh, but my partner is not so good looking as this woman that I saw on television, or on a pornography movie, or on the street walking. So you're always going to compare this entity with your real partner, and you're going to dislike your real partner. So this entity is going to prevent you to achieve your uniting with your real partner and a state of fidelity. So also the masturbation can be assisted when you do a practice with a partner, but you tell your couple, your partner, that you want a practice of masturbation, even when you are supposed to be uniting with that person through the sexual connection. You prefer the stimulation of another part of the body, the genitals, or the mouth, or the whatever degeneration that you feel attraction to, and you replace that. You replace the real sexual union that is between the Johnny, or the female organ, that is the vagina, and the penis. That is the real sexual union, the real magnetism, and the real sexual connection that we are searching when we do the Kundalini practice. So if you replace that electromagnetic connection by the manual stimulation, the anal stimulation, oral stimulation, or even worse, defects of degeneration, that like bestialism and necrophilia, that are types of masturbation really low and degenerated, well, you're replacing the real force that is going to bring love to your life, love and wisdom, by degenerations that won't allow you to awaken your conscience and create the force of love and the force of the Kundalini, that is the energy ascending through your spinal cord, in order to have more wisdom, justice, and love in your life, and increasing your percentage of awakened conscience. So also the nocturnal emissions, sorry, but the word in Spanish is pollutions, so it was a mistake of translation here. The nocturnal emissions, it's caused, it's a defect that is caused by the stimulation or the fantasizing through different impressions that are impressions of the five senses: visual, auditive, olfactory, through the sense of taste, through the sense of touch, are all the sexual frustration impressions, or all the sexual frustration, all the sexual frustrated energy that we have when we fantasize, when we imagine, when we remember, and the identifications are when we are totally hypnotized, totally hypnotized and captivated by those impressions, and we end up feeding the defect of fornication or orgasm. I want to try this, I want to fantasize and imagine this, and I want to desire this, remember this person, remember what I saw in this place, in this magazine, in this movie, in the street. I want to remember a couple that I had long ago, and get to imagine and fantasize and stimulate myself with those impressions. So those are the nocturnal emissions flow, because when we stimulate ourselves so much and activate our sexual creative energy, what happens is that when we are going to go to sleep at night, we are going to go and dream about that person that we feel attraction to. We have a lot of repressed sexual frustration to that person, a lot of sexual anxiety that we have felt towards that person, and we are going to dream about that person at night, and just fed the defect of the nocturnal emissions. We are going to have a dream in which we are fornicating with that person and feeding all that lasciviousness or repressed sexual tension that we had. So it's really important to understand all these impressions and identifications we have with lust, in order to avoid losing our sexual creative energy in a nocturnal emission at night. We also need to understand the defects that we have committed in fornication through a sexual practice in which we united with the opposite sex, with a partner of our opposite sex, but just searching the pleasure of fornication, of expelling our sexual creative energy. All what we have done, if we have practices of sex in a divorce state, in our marriages, we didn't know how to use our sexual creative energy, and we were married and had many fornication practices. Well, we need to reflect on all those practices and beg to our Divine Mother to eliminate us all those things that we did with our energy, because we created a lot of sexual degeneration defects, and a lot of wisdom of evil, in which we trap that sexual creative energy with these practices. All our conquer practices, when we were singles, we fornicated a lot of time, a lot of times with different people, maybe with people that were our boyfriend or our girlfriend, or people that we just dated. Well, all that we did with sex, we are going to have to meditate it and beg to our Divine Mother to eliminate all the defects that we did, in order to rescue that essence that is trapped in the defects of lust. If we had sex during pregnancy, that is a crime to the Holy Spirit, because we are attempting to that temple that is our temple of the sexual creative energy, that is our physical body. When we are in a state of pregnancy, this temple cannot be raped. We need to respect a magnetic pause. The person that is in a state of pregnancy has to wait to the pregnancy to end up, and the lactation to end up, in order to practice again the sexual union with his couple, because this physical body is in a process in which it's preparing to give birth to another person. So the temple cannot be used in order to activate the sexual creative energy. All those vibrations of sexual stimulation are being felt by the person that is inside of the body, by the child that is being born, that is being grown in our uterus is feeling all those sexual vibrations and stimulations that we did. So we need to reflect on that if we had done those practices, and beg to our Divine Mother to eliminate all those mm, defects that we fed with sex in pregnancy, with sex in lactation, what the practices of fornication that we did, uh, if we were parents and we had kids and we did fornication practices with them around in the same house, we were creating a lot of defects. Also, the use of contraceptives. Our physical body is a temple, and if we are working with chastity, we haven't got the need to be afraid of having another person, having being pregnant, or is not going to happen if we send our sexual creative energy to our spinal cord in a practice with chastity. So we don't need to force castrate ourselves, mutilate our body, or introduce chemicals in our body that are contraceptives in order to alterate the right functioning of our body, the natural functioning of our body, just because of the fear of being pregnant. It's not going to happen if we are working with chastity and ascending that sexual creative energy in a practice of suprasex. We are going to ascend the sexual creative energy through our spinal cord in a practice of inhalation, retention, and exhalation of the energy. And so we need to reflect on these defects that are have been doing these practices of consuming contraceptions, castrating, in order to avoid pregnancy. So also we have different defects of prostitution. Prostitution is when we just don't care about fidelity, chastity, and love, and just we use sexuality for entertaining ourselves, for just using people as a mean to achieve pleasure, even that we have a relationship with that person or not, just using sexual stimulation and commercing with sex. Just for example, I feel the need to stimulate myself, so I'm going to pay someone to stimulate my physical body in order to achieve a fornication practice. So that is a prostitution flaw. If you haven't done that in this existence, well, you don't need to reflect on that. But if you have done it, you need to remember, if you have done promiscuity practices, just using someone that you didn't care for, you didn't feel love for that person, or nothing that in relation to that person, that but you were going to use that person as a mean to achieve pleasure and fornicate. That is promiscuity. Even though you're not paying that person to have a sexual practice, this person is totally okay with having sex, even if you don't know him or her. Maybe in a disco you met a person and you feel attraction to her, and you told that person, or this man or woman, let's have sex, and he or her said yes, but you're not my boyfriend, no, not my girlfriend, I just saw you, and we end up having sex. That is promiscuity. And you are going to reflect how many times have you done it, why did you do it, just for feeling pleasure, and all the degeneration that you fed with that defect. You are going to reflect on that. The pimps, that are different sexual types of commerce that are going to provide you a prostitute, a hooker, or someone, a gigolo, that is going to stimulate you for having a practice of fornication. The types of hookers, different classes, the residents, the street horse, the companions, the referrals, the masseurs, friends. All this I'm telling you just because if you have fed those psychological defects, it's necessary to understand what sexual degeneration have you done in order to meditate and beg to your divine mother to liberate you from those defects and free your essence that is trapped in that psychological defect. All the prostitution flaws are tied to this need to sell and buy. The pornography and the commerce are really related to the prostitution defect, because when you consume pornography, there are actresses and actors that are being paid to have sex, even if they are unknown person. They don't know the other person in with which they are committing a sexual practice. They are doing that in order to receive a payment for. So this is a type of sexual commerce that you are supporting when you consume pornography. So all the pornography defects are related to prostitution, because you are supporting that sexual commerce and that using of actors and actresses in order to dramatize a scene of fornication. So all the prostitution defects with temporary artists, advertisers, independent dependents, relationship, brides, wives, acquaintances, all the types of prostitution that you have committed in these existences and this existence, you need to reflect on it in order to liberate the light of wisdom and the fire of love that is trapped in the psychological defect that you have committed. The defect of adultery is going to give us more psychological heaviness. Is a psychological defect that is really attempting towards the spiritual force we have, because it's the force of infidelity is going to give us as a result that we become really dark, really obscure with what we want. These forms of pleasure are going to give us a lot of pain and cause a lot of addiction, and are really destructive, because we are going to reach points of really vibrating with low defects, heavy defects that are in the infradimension or the hidden moon that we have, this occult part of our psyche that is totally contaminated by the forces of sadism, masochism, of really low sexual practices that are really degenerated. And if we keep satisfying that morbid pleasure that we have with these practices, we are going to become darker and darker, and really in a huge distance from our being, that is wisdom, fidelity, chastity, love, and justice. We are going to feed hate, we are going to feed injustice, and we are going to feed really low things in our psyche. So these adulteries involve, when we get really low with it, incest, partner swapping, infidelity, lovers, Juan Tenorio. Juan Tenorio is a person from the literature that was characterized by seducing a lot of women, and being really proud of having a lot of sexual couples, a lot of women, and feeling that he was a player, and that he was the best for that. The Casanova is a person that gives up his sexual union, his home. He has a wife and kids, and leaves that for another person. He has a lover. He has he has betrayed his couple, and leaves the woman and the kids for another home. he builds up another home with another woman and has another kids. That is what we call the Casanova defect. The Doña Inés is like the Juan Tenorio, a woman that is really proud for having many sexual unions with men. The threesome, that is having a sexual union with two partners at the same time. The sharing of partners, that is having a sexual union with several partners and changing the partners at the same time that they have the sexual practice. They share from one couple to another in the middle of the sexual practice. The harems, that is a person that has many sexual unions with a lot of women or men that are available for the sexual practices all the time. Sex in marriage, open marriage, that is having our wife or husband but still cheating and being okay with the cheating, just admitting that. The polygamy, that is having many women. The polyandry, that is having many men. The orgies, that is having sex with a lot of people at the same time. The group sex, that is also that, having sex with a lot of people at the same time. So these defects are really low and directly attempt towards our spiritual force, that is the wisdom, the fidelity, the chastity, the love, superior powers that we have in our psyche, that are going to give us a result, love. This is totally the opposite of love. It is just using the force of pleasure, the force of ego, just to satisfy this animal instinct of fornication, and just forgetting ourselves of our conscience, sleeping our conscience totally because of the need of pleasure, and forgetting that we are the 3% of justice, wisdom, and love. We are going to distance from our being a lot. We are going to become really cold, really using another person just for pleasure, and just leaving that person as if that person was an object for stimulation. So this is really low. Exhibitions, coquetry, party, drugs, alcoholism, fuckers, and devils. Devils are people that know how to use their sexual creative energy, so they don't reach to the orgasm or the ejaculation, but they maintain this energy in their body and use dark sexual practices, and with the force of adultery they have many sexual unions, but without wasting their sexual creative energy in orgasm and ejaculation. So this is working through achieve the world's inferno, achieving hate, injustice, and ignorance, that are the inverted virtues, and that are going to give us as a result the development of our conda buffer organ, that is the force of ego, and are going to distance ourselves from our being, our conscience, that is justice, wisdom, and love. So if we have done these practices that are really dark and really obscure, we need to meditate them, eliminate them, reflect on any detail. Why did we want to do it? Why did we felt like a lot of curiosity for that, a lot of morbid desire for entertaining with these low practices and degenerated practices. Also, there are the underage sex, multiple partners per day, multiple sexual practices per day, sick sex, sexual abuse, forcing ourselves, self-coercion, or forcing the other person to have sex, the raping, the diseases, the mistreating of the genitals, the bruising of the testicles, the corruption of minors, the sadism, masochism, deflowering, and satanism. These are sexual practices that are just really, really low when we have fed a lot of pleasure through the fornication and we don't want to stop anymore. We become heavier and heavier and create heavier psychological defects through the unconscious use of the sexual creative energy. This is the force of adultery, because we are adultering our conscience, that is the divine and spiritual force that we have inside of us, and that is latent in this power that is our sexual creative energy. So if we have done practices like this, we need to urgently reflect on them and eliminate all the degeneration that we have inside of us in order to reach to pure sexual creative practices in which the force of our conscience is present. The justice, the wisdom, and love is going to increase. If you have done practices of sexual violence, you are going to experience as a consequence suffering, separation, fights, frustration, pain, divorces, treason, jealousy, death, and karma. These are a lot of consequences that the sexual degeneration practices have. You are going to use the sexual union not for achieving love, but totally the opposite, to achieve states of hate, grief, resentment, and revenge, because you have fed so much the degeneration in pleasure that you're going to reach a state of pain, and you are going to want to end up that, but you don't know how because of your state of ignorance. Also, the use of sexual creative energy for tying up people. If you don't want to lose your couple and you use your sexual creative energy to do a spell or a witchcraft practice in order to tie up that person, to attach that person, to achieve the process in which this person is going to never leave you because you have done a spell or a curse or a sexual work with witchcraft and sexual creative energy. This is really low and is opposite to love. This is the force of manipulation, of forcing a person to be by your side even if that person doesn't want it. So you need to reflect on that, meditate on all those scenes, and achieve a state of wisdom and love by the elimination of the defect of witchcraft. The results of the study of your lustful selves are going to be the understanding you are going to unfold in observer and the observed. You are going to see from the outside your psychological defect. You are going to be you have the power to see that psychological defect without feeling identified with it, just seeing it from the outside of the movie, and you're going to recognize or accept that you have that inner darkness within yourself, and be conscious of how many times have you really done sexual degenerated practices. Oh, I did this and this. Oh, I recognize and I accept that I felt the urge to feed my pleasure doing this and these other things, and that was really low. I need to reflect on that, and you're going to increase that power of self-observation that is going to allow you to free yourself from your psychological defects. In some selves that we see, you're not going to be able to eliminate them in that moment, but they are going to be thrown into the abysm because they are really heavy defects that cannot be eliminated until you are creating a superior existential body that has the power to get to eliminate that defect that is really big, that is in the hidden moon that you carry in your psyche. So the work on the big selves causes that the black mercury turns into white. When we talk about mercuries, we are going to be talking about the sexual creative energy. When the sexual creative energy is totally contaminated by these sexual degeneration defects, we talk about black mercury. Our energy is in a state of contamination, and it's like a black mercury. It's a heavy substance that cannot ascend through the spinal cord with the force of the kundalini. When we whiten it, when we purify it, when we do meditation practices in order to cleanse ourselves from those psychological defects that we fed in the sexual degenerated practices, we are going to talk about whitening that black mercury. And when we eliminate the little details of the sexual defects of lust, we are going to make the sulfur appear, fertilizing the mercury. That is what we call the fire in the candles, and that is when we lighten up the fire of the kundalini, that serpent of fire that is the kundalini, that is coiled up in our coccyx bone, is going to awaken with the fire, the sexual fire, and the sexual power that we have of the chastity, or chastity, well, however we pronounce it. With the power of the chastity, we are going to ascend that sexual fire through our spinal cord, that is awakening the force of the kundalini with the power of the sulfur. The power of the sulfur is when we cleanse our sexual creative energy to a level that is pure enough to awaken the serpent kundalini. So in this moment, we are going to transform this kunda buffer organ into the kundalini serpent, ascending victorious through our spinal cord. The results of the study of the lustful selves are going to be the mercury turning red. When the energy is in a state of purity that is enough to awaken the kundalini, we talk about the red mercury that is in the astral world seen as the rivers of blood that are ascending through our spinal cord. So when we lighten up the fire, when we become an initiate of the White Lodge and work with the energy of the kundalini, we are going to see that river of blood that is the fire of the kundalini that is ascending through our spinal cord and creating the superior existential bodies for our being, regenerating the physical body, the vital body, creating the astral body, the mental body, the causal body, and finally uniting with our Buddhic and Atmic body. So we are going to create the solar bodies that are the superior existential bodies to get to know the different dimensions of nature. So singles who don't have a partner to work in the sexual transmutation practices, they leave the pile of bones that represent the psychological death. When you eliminate a defect, for instance, you eliminate the defect of adultery, you are going to see that you have eliminated a psychological defect in the astral world, as if some person that was degenerated has died. That's why you're going to see a pile of bone, because that represents the psychological death, the elimination of a defect. Also, you are going to see that you have dogs in the astral world, in the world of the dreams. If you dream with a dog, it represents a defect of lust. If you see a really sick dog or a a dog with fleas, that represents a defect of lust. But if you see the dog of a white dog, the dog of the chastity, he is going to eat all the bones that represent in the astral world the defects that you have eliminated regarding lust. If you have eliminated the defect of pornography, the defect of adultery, the defect of lasciviousness, of masturbation, all the defects that you have seen, that you have eliminated through meditation practices, begging to your Divine Mother, you are going to see them in the astral world being eliminated as well. Maybe you're going to see a dog that is missing a leg. The leg represents in the astral world the works, what you do, the actions. Or if the dog is missing an eye, the visual impressions, maybe you are working the visual impressions of lusts, and so on. Lustful selves prevent concentration, prevent imagination and will. You are not going to have conscious will to love your couple, to be faithful to your couple, to your partner, to be loyal, to be faithful, to love your partner. If you are desiring someone that you saw in a pornography film, if you are desiring someone and feeling attraction towards someone that you saw in the street, so you're going to always be imagining that, losing the power of concentration, that is conscience, that is centered in the action that you are doing. So you're going to recover that power to be having your conscience centered in the action, in the instant, in living the present, not imagining and fantasizing, but focusing your imagination in something that is conscious, like as meditation practice, astral projection practice, that is using the imagination towards something that is profitable and powerful, to awaken a faculty that you have latent in your energy. The process of regeneration begins with the disintegration of the defects that we know we have. So we are going to meditate what we have committed, or what we recognize and accept, what is evident in ourselves. Then we are going to perceive more and more subtle details of our lustful defects, and it's going to get deeper, the process of meditation. This is the alchemy of or what we call the sexual processes of ascending, that lead and turning it into gold. The gold is our sexual creative energy. That teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, of the serpents, of the caduceus of Mercury, they were talking about the sexual alchemy, that is using our sexual creative energy to awaken our conscience, is using that energy to create the faculty, powers and forces that we have, that are latent in that sexual creative energy, and that are going to manifest with the creation of the superior existential bodies for our being. That is ending up with our lunar nature, the ego, in order to be solar man and woman, to humanize ourselves and stop being instinctive and rational animals mistakenly called men. So it's really important to eliminate our lustful defects, because there is trapped the chastity, the sexual power. It's going to give as a result the process of alchemy, that is working with our couple in the kundalini practices and whitening the brass, that is cleansing and purifying that sexual creative energy, that is our conscience, that is the power of love, fidelity, chastity, or wisdom, justice, and love. Something that is truthful, that is not going to pass away with time, that is what is useful, truthful, and fair. That is the power of our conscience and creating truly love, not just uh, instinctive pleasure, animal pleasure, the generations of what we called uh, fornication, but the creation of love through the practices of sexuality based on love and the awakening of the serpent Kundalini. So this is uh, the conference about the different types of lustful defects, of lustful selves. It's really important that we reflect on these defects, because in the fornication defects is trapped the uh, biggest portion of our ego, because we fed up uh, our seminal rapt, or that 97% of conscience that is bottled up in our ego. The most part of it comes from the fornication defects, because with the practices of fornication was that we were expelled from paradise. The paradise was the connection with our being, with the portion of justice, wisdom, and love, and we created attachment, dependence, suffering, and being unsatisfied, being in a state of resentment to our opposite sex, and not achieving the union with our complement, that is man and woman. So we need to re-establish that magnetic and electric force that we own as woman and man, that complement each other to the sexual practices and to the awakening our conscience. So this study of lustful selves is going to give us the power to return to paradise by the door, or by the gates of sex. We were expelled from paradise through the gate of sex, and we need to come back to paradise through the gate of sex, but through the gate of the sexual superior practices of the Kundalini, or the sexual transmutation practices that are done based on the power of the energy and the use of sexual connection with the virtues of fidelity, chastity, and love to create our conscience. So this is really important. And as I was telling you, we expelled through fornication our solar atoms, and we turn them into lunar atoms, creating more and more legions of psychological defects. So we need to disintegrate those legions of lunar atoms and turn them into solar atoms again, through the practices of sexual transmutation, of union with our stable couple of the opposite, our stable partner of the opposite sex. And this is the process. So let's remember that we have the three factors that are the psychological death, the elimination of our ego, the sexual practices that are the spiritual birth, and this is the other factor of the revolution of our conscience, the sexual connection with our couple, with our partner, to create the superior existential bodies, and the sacrifice for humanity, that is giving this information to all mankind, regardless of nationality, regardless of status, sexual condition, sexual gender, regardless of our sexual, our superficial aspect. All those conditions are from the personality, and they don't matter. So we need to give this information to all mankind, because we are all brothers and sisters, and we deserve to know how to awaken our conscience and how to get in touch with our spiritual force again, how to recover our faculties, powers and forces that are trapped in that contaminated essence of our ego. So this was the conference, and I hoped that it served a lot for your spiritual work and for your meditation practices, for your sexual transmutation practices, and to reflect on all those psychic elements that are in the defect of lust. I'm going to take a look at your comments to see if you have any doubts or something to share. Eric L says, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Eric, and thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your time, to all that were watching this conference, and see you in the next lecture. We are going to be transmitting all Sundays at this schedule. So Eric says, is a single person able to get yellow or red mercury, or is that only for a married person? Well, you can achieve a state of sexual purifying. A single person can only get to a state of practicing what we call the psychological death, and get to liberate a lot of conscience in the psychological death. But he needs to work in the spiritual birth in order to create the superior existential bodies, in order to really ascend the Kundalini. And to have red mercury ascending, you need to achieve an initiation of the White Lodge. It's only done through a sexual union with your partner of the opposite sex. So you can only advance to a point, but to lighten up the fire, to awaken the Kundalini, you need your partner, because only with your partner you can create the superior existential bodies for your being. Eric Uriel says, hola. Hola. And thank you for watching. I hope the doubt that you have was clear, and that I have cleared that doubt. And thank you again all for watching and for sharing with us this moment of reflection and connection with our being. Have a good day, and a lot of force and a lot of energy with your practices of meditation and reflection on your lustful defects. Bye. See you in the next lecture.